Hey everybody, this video is going to show you how to load and unload film from your Hasselblad 500 medium format film camera. It's just going to be a quick video showing the loading and unloading process. I'll make another one in the future that goes into more details of the camera and just some example photos I've gotten with it, but this video is really just to get you started and get you out shooting. So I've got on the table a Hasselblad 500C medium format film camera. And then I've also got off to the side here on the table just a single roll of Kodak Portra 400 medium format film. Don't need the film quite yet, so I'm going to set it off to the side for now, and we'll focus in on the camera body and film back. For loading and unloading film, you can do this process with the film back on the camera, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to take it off just to give us a little bit more space. So to remove the film back from the film body, just go ahead and make sure your dark slide, which is this piece of metal here that slides in and out of the film back, make sure that's pushed in all the way and flush with the camera. You want to do that because if it's pulled out a little bit, this film catch here, which you push to the right, is going to be locked. That's a fail-safe so that you don't accidentally pull the film back off with the dark slide out. That'll mess up your negatives and photos in the film back. So just make sure that's pushed in and flush. And once that's good, you can push your film catch to the right, and the film back will release from the camera body. So I've got my film back off to the left here, camera body to the right. I'm going to go ahead and set the camera body out of frame right now because we don't need that. And we'll take a look at the film back here. So with the film back off, you can see your dark slide here. There's no film in here right now, so just for the purposes of showing you, I'll pull that out slightly. And this is the window that your negative will basically feed through and where your images will be taken. But the dark slide slides out like that. One thing to note is that there is this little ridge on the dark slide. Best practice is to make sure that's facing forward towards the lens of the camera. You want to make sure you do that because when we go to pull out the spool holder here, if you've got that lip facing forward, that's perfect because the spool holder will come in and out unobstructed. But if it's flipped the other way and facing down, it's actually going to catch on this metal lip here and pull out when we pull this film spool out, which we don't want to happen. So just make sure it's pointed forward like it is right now. And once we've got that pointed forward, we've got this little lever here on the side of the film back. Go ahead and flip that up and give it a slight counterclockwise rotation. It'll lock into place. And with that done, you can go ahead and remove the spool holder from the film magazine. And I'm going to set the magazine off to the side because we don't need that right now either. And right now we're just looking at our spool holder, and you can see that there are two sort of sections here, each with an arm on top of them. One of them's already got an empty film spool in it. That's just leftover from the spool of film that I shot last time. We can go ahead and lift both these arms up. They just lock into place. Don't get rid of this though, because we need this film spool. What you're going to do is you're going to take it and move it to the opposite side, the side that has the arm with the little knob on it. And with that moved over, you can go ahead and lock it into place. And what this is going to be our take-up spool. So once we load our film into this cavity over here, the film is going to wrap around. It's going to be flush against this plate, wrap around against this roller, and it'll actually be collected on this take-up spool here. So that spool has a use. So we've got our film spool pretty much ready to go there. I'm going to go ahead and pull that film back into frame. This is just a fresh roll of Kodak Portra 400. And what you're going to want to do is just be careful. There's a piece of tape here that runs all the way around. Go ahead and along the seam here, undo that. So with that tape now broken, what you want to do is go ahead and remove the excess tape. Try to do it slowly. There's a chance you can get it off in one pull. Looks like this one might have some debris left over because I didn't do it perfectly. But I got most of it in one swoop. Just set that off to the side and you'll see there's a little bit of excess left over here. Just get as much off of that as you can. You might have to scrape it a little bit. I'm not going to make it perfect just because I'm going to unload this camera here in a second anyways, but you just want to make sure you don't have any debris there that'll get caught in the camera. And potentially mess up your camera functionality. So just make sure it's relatively clean. Once you've got that ready, you'll see there's this little tab underneath. Go ahead and take that film. We're going to put it on that side of the spool holder. We're going to lock it into place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull out about 5 inches of film here. just enough to play with. And once we've got that pulled out, we'll go ahead and look at the back here. And what we need to do is, there's this clamp that runs along the top, this little piece of metal here. You'll see it's flush to that back plate currently. So if I go back to the side of the camera here that has this lever on it, and we return that to the original position, what that actually does is it clamps and unclamps that little film clamp there. So we want it in the unclamped position so that we can slide the top edge of the film underneath it. And then once it's there, we'll go ahead and clamp it down so that it's held into place. And with that held into place, we're going to go back to the other side, take a look at our take-up spool here, and you'll see there's a little groove there. What you're going to want to do is take your film leader, just go ahead and slip it in there, and once it's in, use your knob to go ahead and wind it up as best you can, nice and tight. And now we've got the film clamped down, the leader's on the take-up spool, and what you're going to want to do is just gently, since that clamp is still engaged, just gently rotate this knob here and watch the bottom here. We're going to be looking for a set of arrows, and there they are. So once you've got the arrows in about that position right there, we are good to go in terms of having the spool holder loaded. So I'm going to go ahead and move the magazine back into frame. We're going to go ahead and just gently slip that back in here. Just make sure you don't catch the lip of that film when you're pushing it in. And once we've got that in, we can go ahead and rotate this back to its original position. That'll release that film clamp that we were looking at and release the top lip of that film so it can be fed through cleanly. And once we've got that back into place, we are getting close to ready. But what we need to do first is, you'll see on the opposite side of the camera there are these two levers here. Flip up either one of those, it doesn't matter which one, just get it flipped up. And then flip down your little view window here, because we're going to need to effectively look through this window, which is looking at the film backing there. And what we're going to do is just rotate that lever off to the right, just rotate it clockwise. Watch that film window. We don't see anything yet, it's just white, but keep going. Eventually we're going to see a Kodak come into frame. Keep going. There's an arrow. Almost there. And there's Kodak, and then 1. And that 1 means that on the other side here, behind our dark slide, our first frame is ready to go. So now that we've confirmed we're in the 1 position, we can go ahead and flip that back down. Off on the side here, you'll see we've got a counter. It's already at 9, which is not correct. We've just got to reset that. So since we know our first frame is here, it is safe for us to go ahead and rotate this counterclockwise and watch that 9. It's going to be reset to 1. And we are good to go from the film back perspective. So before we put this back onto the body of the camera, let's just go ahead and make sure in your indicator window there that that is white. That means this is set and ready to go, and what you want to do is make sure in the same spot on the camera body that it is also white, because that means the shutter is cocked and ready to fire. Both those need to be white, or else you could put this on and have to cycle this through, which will move that to 2. So you'd effectively waste a frame of film. So they're both white, so we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and put the film back on the body of the camera. So with that back on, we're good to shoot. So I'm indoors right now. You're not really going to be able to see anything in the window here. But we're on our first frame and ready to shoot. So if I was outside and ready to go, I'd pull out my dark slide. With the dark slide pulled out, I'd line up my shot, do my focusing, the shutter button down here on the bottom of the camera, take my first shot, and we'd be good to go. And the body that I have has got this little winder on it, so I'd move to the next frame. You know, same thing, shoot, move to the next frame, and you'll see all the while that counter down here is, you know, clicking up as we go through frames, so on and so forth. And this is just for an example. So, you know, let's say we're done shooting for the day. I just shot my last frame. We want to make sure before we unload this that we've got the dark slide again inserted. I'm going to go ahead and collapse our viewfinder here. dark side inserted. Again, I'm only on frame 4, but just hypothetically, let's say we're done shooting for the day and on our last frame. What you want to go ahead and do is, again, I'm going to remove the film backing from the camera, set the body off to the side, and then what we're going to do is you're just going to have to rotate this, and I'm going to have to rotate for a little while since I'm on the last frame, but you're just going to want to rotate this forward until you feel the tension that I feel right now relax, because that means the film's been unspooled and it's done. So I think I just felt it release right now, so we should be safe to go ahead and go back to the other side of our camera. I'm going to flip the lever up here, same thing, counterclockwise, pull out the film back, and you'll see that what was originally a full roll of film is now all collected off on our take-up spool. So you can go ahead and open that, and you've got your completed roll of film. So, you know, before we send this off, we'd want to fold this underneath like so. You'd go ahead and just lick the back of this. It's a little bit adhesive, roll it around, and you'd have a roll of exposed film ready to be sent off to your lab. So I'll just set that to the side. And then again, this is what we were looking at the start of the video. So when you're ready to go and load in a next roll, you know, you'd move your spool over to the other side and just walk right back through the steps that we just went through to reload the camera and get shooting. So I'm just gonna put everything back together here, but that is the quick summary on how to load and unload your Hasselblad 500C film camera. I'll have some more videos coming in the future, just talking through some more details of the camera as well as some example images. But thanks for watching today, everybody, and we'll talk soon.